In this video we're going to discuss CRA models for dividing a fraction by a whole number. So we have two different types we're going to look at, one where we can just leave the parts the same size, then one where we're going to have to do that subdivision and have different size parts. So for this first one we have 6/8 divided by 3. We're going to show y is equal to 2/8 using the concrete representational model. So again, for division, that starting number, our dividend, 6/8, that's telling us our starting amount. So we have 6/8 shown in this length model. And then we're dividing by 3. So again, that 3 can mean either the number of groups we're going to divide this into or the size of each group. So you can do it either way. It's going to be easier for this case, for this 3 to represent the number of groups. So we're going to divide this 6/8 into 3 different groups. Okay. So this is our starting amount. We have 6. So we want to divide this into 3 equal groups. So again, if we didn't necessarily know how many or what the size of each group was going to be, or we could think of, let's get this up just a little. There's one group, there's a second group, and a third group. So we have our 3 groups there. Okay, so we could do that if it was if we weren't sure what the size of each group was, or if we didn't see that 6 divided by 3 is going to be 2. We have those 6 parts, so again we can think of separating this into 3 equal groups. Since that's the number of groups, then our quotient has to be the size of each group. So what is the size of each of these groups? It has 2 pieces, that's the numerator. What is the size of the name of each of those pieces? It's an eighth. So we can see that when we divide 6/8 into 3 groups, that we get a group size of 2/8. Okay. So that's the concrete model, and then kind of similarly for our representational model here, we have a number line. So again, if we weren't sure, we could create 3 different number lines and do like little jumps on each. I'll show each of these with a different color. And so we can see that we can take that total length of 6/8, and when we divide it into 3 equal groups, each group has a length of 2/8. Okay, and then this will just be our abstract model for this one. Okay. All right, so that's kind of the easier type where we can leave these as eighths. We don't need to change those parts. So we're going to look at a little bit more challenging example here. Okay, so here we have 1/2 divided by 3. We're going to show why this is equal to 1/6. Okay, so for this one, right, we have our 1/2 with we're going to look at an area model for this one. So we have our 1/2 modeled here. We want to divide this into 3 equal parts, or 3 equal groups. Okay, so we're going to do number of groups again for our divisor. But here it's just one piece, so we can't put that into 3 equal groups. Okay, so we'll need to subdivide this in some way, find some equivalent fraction, essentially. Okay, so we could break this into any size parts that's a multiple of 3. Obviously, the easier case is just going to be to break this half into 3 equally sized parts. Okay, so I can take 3 parts that are of equal size. And again, we want it to still have the exact same area as that 1/2. We want it to be an equivalent fraction. Okay, so now we have 3/6. All right, so I've taken this 1/2 and I've divided it into 3 equal groups. So if we're thinking of each of these pieces as their own group, right now I have 3 equal pieces. And then again, if this is the number of groups, if our divisor is the number of groups, then our quotient, our answer, has to be the size of each group. So now that I have 3 equal groups from that 1/2, what is the size of each group? Each group has the size of, it has one piece, right? That's the numerator. And then what is the size for the name? And just to show, right, we would need 6 of these parts to make up our whole. So each is a 1/6 of the whole, or it is called a 1/6. So then our denominator is going to be 6. Okay. And then kind of similarly for representational model, we have that area model drawn. We have 1/2 of this shaded in. So we're going to make 3 equal groups from this. Okay, so again, we could break this into thirds or sixths or ninths or twelfths. Obviously thirds is going to be the easier case. Okay. And then I'm actually going to color these ones. I'll leave that one red. That one will be black. And this one will be green. If I can get the marker to work here. Okay, so still have that same quantity of 1/2 shown in the model, but now we have different colors to show that we have 3 distinct groups in there. Okay, so then again, we're looking at what is the size of each group. Well, each group, each color has 1 piece, so that's the numerator. And then again, if we didn't know exactly how many parts it took to make up the whole, we can think of extending these lines. All right, so there we can see each piece is a 1/6 of the whole, or it has a name of a 1/6. So then that will be our denominator. And then again, for this one, this will just be our abstract model, just that equation, 1/2 divided by 3 equals 1/6.